So let's just take a quick look at what's going on. Which shortcut am I going to use, boomerang or heartbeat? Well, what I always look for is the altitude. Do I know the altitude? Well, here, do I want the altitude or know the altitude? Yes. That means I'm going to use heartbeat here for part 1. Okay, here, do I know the altitude? No. Do I want it? No. So that means I'm going to use boomerang. Okay, but they all basically work the same. So let's go through heartbeat. I'll get the orange here. Okay, so we just pick one side to start. I'm going to start from the right side this time. There's my first part, so I'm going to write 4w plus 3 over 16 equals 16 over 2w. Okay? Now the fast way to do that would be to say that okay, so we got that going. The fast way to say that would be, okay, let's go over to boomerang here. Okay, now remember I don't care about this here, so I'm going to get rid of that. What I do care about is I want this k, and I know how big is the whole hypotenuse. How big is that? Well, I have a k plus a 21. This is k plus 21. So let's see what we've got going there. Well, if I have this side, when I start boomerang, I should start on the opposite side so I can get boomerang done. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do that one in red. So I'm going to go k plus 21 over 10 equals, come up 10, and we'll go back k. So I've got both of those there. Now I don't have enough space to do here, so I'm going to do each one on the next page. So I'm going to do, so I got 16 over 2w equals 4w plus 3 over 16. So do this one in orange. 16 over, we forgot 2w. And this is 16 down here. And the top is 4w plus 3. I was going to put 4w plus 1. Okay, so when I do that, I'm going to get 16 squared. 16 times 16 is 256. Okay, so that's this here. And 2w plus 4w times 4w plus 3. Okay, so I'm going to have to distribute this in here. It's going to be 8w squared plus 6w equals 256. Oh, yuck. I've got this. I'm going to have to do factoring to solve this. And we talked about that a couple classes ago. We haven't done a lot of this, so I'll do it for you here. So I'm going to subtract 256 from both sides because I'm going to set it to 0. 8w squared plus 6w minus 256. And it turns out that the number 2 divides evenly into all those. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. Make my numbers a little smaller. And it turns out I get 0 equals 4w squared plus 3w minus 128. So now this becomes kind of a yucky problem. I hadn't shown you this part yet this year. You should have seen it last year, but we're going to have to factor this. We're going to have to do an extra step. So what we're going to have to do is 4 times 128. That is 4 times 128, which is 512. I want all the factors of 512 that subtract, and I want them to subtract to the number 3. Well, that's a lot of numbers here, so I'm going to type, this is what I'm going to type in the calculator. I'm going to go to the y equals screen on my calculator, and I'm going to type equals 512 divided by x. And I'm going to look at the table. And when I look at the table, it's going to give me all the factors of 512. And it's also going to then, and I can check which pair subtract a 3 if any of them do. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I started writing down the factors, and you're going to get a whole bunch of factors here. But the first few factors, none of them even subtract close to 3. I mean, this subtracts, when you subtract these two, you get 511. And when you subtract these two, you get 126. So none of them are close. So I'm going to skip a whole bunch of factors here. So I'm scrolling down there. I see an 8 and a 64 factor. Scrolling down my table, looking for whole number pairs. 16 and 32. So there's a 16 and a 32. And when you subtract those, you get 32. That's getting closer. I've got to go a ways down. And it turns out there aren't any. So there aren't any. So what do I have to do? I have to use the quadratic formula. I'm going to have to say the quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So what I'm going to have to do for w. And in geometry, I know that in Algebra 1 they don't teach that anymore. So I'm not expecting you to know how to do this part. If you can get this set up right here, I'm really happy. This is really a pre-AP question. So when I do that, I can call this little a, little b, little c. And I would put it in like this. Negative, and the b was 3, plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 4 minus 128 all over 2 times 4. So don't worry about that. I'm going to stop this here because it's going to take too long. What I'm going to do is do the next one. We might have a better factorable one, and that was set up as k plus 21 over 10. So I go over here, k plus 21 over 10. So this is that second part. That's that second part, and that equaled 10 over k if I'm not mistaken. So that was this. I did this one. I'm doing this one here. I think this one will factor nicer. You should be able to factor. Okay, so then this one you cross multiply, you get 100. And here you get k times k plus 21, which gives you 100 equals k squared plus 21k. So I subtract 100. And I get 0 equals k squared plus 21k minus 100. So now, what are the factors of 100? Remember, I want to get two numbers, a first number and a second number, to equal 0, because then I can set this one equal to 0, and I can set this one equal to 0, and I can find what k is. So that's what my goal is. And this is much easier to factor, so I'm going to do that. So the factors of 100 that subtract to 21. So what are the factors of 100? Well, 1 times 100, 2 times 50, 3 does not go in, 4 goes in 25 times. Oh, bingo. Isn't 25 minus 4 equal to 21? We've got our numbers. We've got a 4 and a 25 and a k and a k. Now the question is, do we want 25 minus 4, so positive 25 minus 4, or do we want negative 25 plus 4 to give you negative 21? Well, how do I know? Well, what I'm going to do is look right here. That's a positive 21, so I want this situation right here. So I'm going to write positive 25 minus 4. Now I can go k minus 4, add 4, k equals 4. Or it could also be k plus 25 equals 0, so I subtract 25. We got there. Now if you think about side lengths, let's go back to the picture. we had k equals 4 or negative 25. Does it make sense that this piece would be negative units? It doesn't, so I'm going to throw this one out, and I got k equals 4. There's my answer. Remember, the W1 is going to be, I've been put in the quadratic formula. Well, I didn't finish off the problem, but you got the setup. So if you get the setup, I'm happy on this case. Okay, so now you should be able to do the homework, and I'm sorry that I made a problem from pre-AP that I didn't fix. I thought I had fixed it. So there you go. You got the setups.